Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here again. It seems to me that everyone in government and the bureaucracy is incapable of telling people how much reducing Australia's carbon dioxide...
Senator Roberts, I'll stop you right there. We will be respecting the people who are sitting at the table. If you would like to rephrase your question.
I can't get an answer from the government or the bureaucracy on how much it's going to cost in total, overall, for cutting Australia's carbon dioxide production to meet your targets. Why is that? Well, I've heard everything from a couple of $100 billion here or there to $1.9 trillion. What is the number?
So, Senator, I know we've had this discussion before, but I just think the generality of your question makes it very hard for us as officials to answer it in any meaningful way. And we always do want to try to assist you because it's legitimate, your questions as a Senator.
Thank you.
So, if there's a way you can in some way refine it, we can have a crack. Otherwise, if you think it'd be better to put it on notice and we can give you responses on notice, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Fredericks. I'll accept your invitation. I'm talking about all the costs, the wind and solar generators, the power lines needed for the scattered wind and solar, the killing of coal, the killing of the farting cows, the banning of petrol and diesel engines, killing off the V8 Toyota LandCruiser. How much is it all going to cost Australia to get to where you somehow think we're going to be in 2050 compared to just letting Australians be? What is it going to cost to do all of that versus what does it cost to do nothing?
So, Senator, I think if it's okay with you, we'll take that on notice. Because you've given some specificity, we are in a position to be able to describe, as it appears in the budget, costs associated with a range of the measures, some of the measures you just described, so we can legitimately do that. So we'll take that on notice and do that.
So you understand what I'm after now? Even though I haven't named every single component, there are a hell of a lot of components. I'd like to know the cost.
I think, Senator Roberts, that Mr. Fredericks has said, I'll answer it as far as I can. I mean, I can say to you that in your question were a couple of assertions. Killing off the Toyota LandCruiser, the V8 Toyota LandCruiser, is not an initiative of the Albanese Labor government. Killing the Australian auto industry was an initiative of the Morrison, Abbott and Turnbull governments. The vehicles that now international automakers make, because Australia doesn't make cars anymore because they killed the industry, is not something that can be costed, Senator. It's the economic harm that is done by coalition governments to Australian manufacturing that is entirely the responsibility of Mr Hockey, who I saw featured in the newspapers yesterday, a pretty interesting article, Mr Abbott, Mr Turnbull, Mr Morrison, Mr Frydenberg, all these characters who thought it was an act of total genius to kill 40,000 jobs and Australia's capacity to make cars. You can see that there is a contrast with this government. $2 billion, for example, in your home state of Queensland, backing the aluminium sector, so that investment is sustained in Australia. Now, they are going through their own process. You might not like it, the aluminium sector. They've just on the back of that announcement... No, I know you like the aluminium sector. You might not like the fact that they are shifting to a lower carbon profile. They have on the back of the Albanese government's investment in the aluminium sector that has given them the confidence to invest themselves $2 billion in renewable energy capability in Queensland. So that's more jobs for Queensland, with a government that's got a local content plan for the renewable sector, which will mean more engineering and more structural steel and more jobs.
Minister, the key
in Queensland.
In producing aluminium is electricity prices.
I didn't interrupt you, Senator. I'm just trying to make the point that some of the assertions that you make go to things that are not the government, not what the government is up to here. What the government is up to here is supporting Australian manufacturing and Australian industry and rebuilding a modern electricity grid so that we are competitive for the future.
Thank you.
That's what we're up to, and the fruits of that are most starkly evident in regional Queensland at the moment, where 5,000 jobs sustained in Gladstone and central Queensland because of that one announcement, and investment in new renewable energy capability. And the alternative is the plan that these jokers have for nuclear reactors that will force the aluminium sector offshore, just like the auto industry was forced offshore.
Minister, I'll ask you to refer to our colleagues. Yes.
What was it? What did I say? I'm sorry.
You called them jokers.
Sense of humour.
We don't normally repeat these.
I'm sorry.
But, I don't know, in the vein of respect.
My friends over here. Yes.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Minister. Appreciate that.
Sorry, Senator Roberts.
Gladstone
I took us
is
off
under
track.
threat because of both this government and the previous government's passion for net zero. That's why it's under threat. Electricity prices are the key ingredient to an aluminium smelter. I happen to have been living in the Hunter Valley when the alumina smelter at Kurri Kurri was built, and I know it's shut down and others are under threat now because of electricity prices, because of the conversion to net zero. So I'd also like to understand the subsidies, the support, what that is going to cost, because we've got these net zero policies increasing the cost of electricity. Then we've got the government milking the taxpayer and electricity users to subsidise people who are vulnerable. So I'd also like to know that specifically.
Can I just make two observations about that?
By the way, Minister,
Yes.
you introduced the ute tax. That's what's hurting V8 LandCruisers.
Can I make a few observations about this? Firstly, Senator, the most disturbing thing I've heard this morning is your assertion that you were around in the Hunter Valley when the Kurri Kurri smelter was built. I cannot believe that you look so youthful. You look so youthful. It is not. I just cannot. Like that, really, there's a set of cognitive dissonances there. I'm going to have to adjust to this idea.
Aluminium smelter on my way to high school at Kurri Kurri High School.
I once persuaded somebody who didn't come from the Hunter Valley that there were two towns in the Hunter Valley, one called Kurri and the other called Kurri Kurri, and they
Wagga
believed
Wagga?
me. They believed, indeed, that's right.
So,
Senator,
did you not introduce the ute tax as killing V8 LandCruisers?
Well, there's no arrangement called the ute tax. You know it. If people want to buy LandCruisers or any other kind of vehicle, they're very, very welcome to.
Are you aware that
The broader point, though, is I think because the questions that you ask go outside the scope, apart from the assertions that I don't agree with, and the ones like your relative age that I can't reconcile myself to, we will take those questions on notice, and the department will do their best to look within the scope of their responsibilities to be able to answer on the cost of measures, you know, I'll.
it's disturbing that you are now qualifying Mr. Frederick's.
I think I'm saying exactly the same thing as Mr. Fredericks. That is, we'll take those things on notice, and they will answer to the extent that they can.
That they can.
Yeah, because they can answer questions that go to the scope of the department's activities. If you want sort of economy-wide measures, and even if you end up at PM&C or Treasury, a very substantial amount of these investments are private investments. Encouraged or facilitated by developments in the international market and developments that the Australian government is supporting. What I can say to you is that you say government support. I mean, we unequivocally support Australian manufacturing. We've got the biggest pro-manufacturing...
It's being killed by your policies on net zero.
The biggest pro-manufacturing package in Australian history, to back investment in areas like critical minerals, iron and steel, aluminium, backing current jobs and prospective investment. That is the kind of thing that I would have thought your political party would support. The alternative is zero in industry policy and forcing important industries like the auto industry offshore, which is what my friends over there, when in the era that they want to go back to, right?
Well, we're very
sort of
pleased, Minister, to say our policy.
period, the sort of Morrison period, where they want to go back to 40,000 jobs gone. Now, I think it's a very strong contrast, and one that I'm very happy to talk about over the coming weeks and months.
Our policy
question,
is to end net zero and restore manufacturing. Do you admit, Minister, that a Toyota V8 Toyota LandCruiser simply cannot survive under your vehicle emissions rules, and that you effectively killed it off?
What? Look, I can't answer in terms of. I can answer in terms of my own practical. I went into work this morning. There are all sorts of vehicles on the road. Some of them were old vehicles. Some of them were new ones. Some of them had been purchased new. Some of them had been purchased second-hand. The government has, as we canvassed a little bit earlier before you
Minister, everyone
came
can
in,
see you on TV.
Before you came
everyone
in,
can see you answering this question.
The government has introduced a set of fuel efficiency standards. Right? Well, that is, before that, Australia was operating on the basis of standards that had been developed in the 1970s. We were the dumping ground for vehicles, just like the Russian economy and a couple of other places around the world that hadn't taken this step. It's in the interests of...
I'm deeply concerned about Australia.
It's in the interests of people having to buy less fuel, right? So it's cheaper for people when there's a vehicle efficiency standard. That means that cars aren't overusing petrol or diesel. It costs less to get from one place in regional Queensland to the other because you're using less fuel. It's a good thing. And it's a good thing for consumers. It's a pity that we don't have an automotive manufacturing sector in Australia that would be able to take advantage of those things as well and build LandCruisers and Hiluxes and all sorts of things for the Australian market and the international market. We lost that opportunity because the previous government decided to force the auto industry offshore.
And we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.